Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The top stories that we're tracking for you tonight.
In my head, and as I said, I'm a layman in these matters, something closer to 12,000 sounds fair value, as you called it. So who knows, there might be another buyback in the near future.
Rajiv Bajaj says 12,000 rupees could be the fair value for the stock. Advances the launch of the CNG motorcycle, the world's first CNG motorcycle, to next quarter. Speaks out against electric vehicle subsidies again, says we cannot keep distorting the market. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Google agrees to temporarily reinstate apps that were removed for billing fee violations. This after Union IT and Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav held talks with both sides. Google maintains its right to implement and enforce its business model. The bond market is set for more liquidity after Bloomberg adds Indian government securities to its emerging market local currency index. The inclusion will happen from the 31st of January in 2025. RBI imposes strict restrictions on JM Financial, bars the company from financing against shares and debentures, including for IPOs. Says credit underwriting was perfunctory, also finds serious concerns on governance issues. Shares of IFL Finance hit the 20% lower circuit after RBI orders it to stop sanctioning and disbursing fresh gold loans. IFL says the move relates to non-compliance on cash disbursals and some discrepancies on gold valuation. Aims to resolve both issues. National Payments Corporation of India holds a meeting with UPI app providers with lesser market share. Large banks and select NBFCs attend the meeting to discuss steps to boost the presence of smaller players. Large players like Paytm, Google Pay and Phone Pay not part of the meeting. Calcutta High Court Judge Abhijit Ganguly formally resigned, says he will join the BJP. He gained prominence for his orders over irregularities in the recruitment scam, alleged scam in West Bengal, but he was later removed from the case by the Chief Justice of India after appearing in a television interview. Former Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal and other executives take Elon Musk to court over the non-payment of severance. The $128 million lawsuit claims these executives were fired without any reason after Musk took over the company. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos surpasses Elon Musk as the world's richest person for the first time in over 2 years. The net worth of Bezos at $200 billion, Musk at $198. Well, we'll get to the billions in just a bit, but first up, the day's market action. A range-bound session saw the Wall Street snap its 4-day gaining streak. The Nifty and the sensex ended about 0.25% lower. The mid-cap index fell in line with the blue chips, but bank stocks bucked the trend, and the PSU banks in particular saw a sharp rally. So that's the Nifty, down by about 50 points, flat close on the sensex. The Nifty bank, as we were pointing out, up by about 125 points, and the Nifty PSU Bank Index up by 2.5%. Now, after JP Morgan, Bloomberg Index Services will soon include Indian government bonds in its emerging market local currency index. These will be bonds issued under the fully accessible route, or FAR bonds, and the inclusion will begin from the 31st of January 2025. Now, FAR securities allow investments by non-resident entities without having to adhere to a ceiling. Only bonds with minimum outstanding of 1,000 crore rupees will be eligible for this inclusion. Data as of January 2024 actually suggests that the index would include 34 Indian securities. Experts say this could result in inflows of around $5 billion from investors, especially passive funds. The bonds will be included with an initial weight of 10% of their full market value. Weightage will rise in a phased manner over the subsequent 10 months, hitting 100% by November 2025. So an important trigger there for the bond markets. The big global story, the Chinese government has set an ambitious growth target of around 5% for 2024, and this despite prevailing economic challenges. Now, the target was announced by the country's premier at the annual parliamentary gathering. The IMF and the World Bank have estimated China's growth at between 4.6 and 4.5% respectively. The Chinese government has also set its fiscal deficit ratio at 3% for 2024. The government has said it will issue ultra-long treasury bonds worth 1 trillion yuan to fund major projects. Well, the big newsmaker this evening, Rajiv Bajaj, the managing director at Bajaj Auto, believes that 12,000 rupees could be the fair value for the company's share price. He was speaking to CNBC-TV18's Parikshit Luthra ahead of the proposed share buyback, which he said has received great response. Bajaj also confirmed that the company will advance the launch of the world's first CNG bike to the next quarter. He also spoke out against subsidies for electric vehicles, saying we cannot keep distorting the market. Take a look.
By the end of this year, very early into the next financial year, we will launch the biggest Pulsar ever. So, Pulsar is really driving a lot of our performance for the last few months. I said to you that within the calendar year 25, we hope to be the first in the world to launch such a motorcycle. But today I'm going to tell you we are so encouraged by the results we've seen from the testing that we are actually able to prepone that by a whole year. So within this calendar year 24, in the very near future, I think you will see us announce the world's first CNG motorcycle. In terms of fair valuation, I mean, without taking any names, all I would say is that in my head, I have a basket of companies that I think Bajaj Auto can be compared with. In terms of its performance, in terms of its PE, in terms of its future prospects, let's say, etc. And frankly, to me, although the stock has moved up from 4,000 through 6,000 to 8,000, in my head, and as I said, I'm a layman in these matters, something closer to 12,000 sounds fair value, as you called it. So who knows, there might be another buyback in the near future. Our business plans never rest on any incentives, any subsidies from the government. I mean, we built such a large export business. We didn't do it on the back of incentives. Incentives are welcome if they're on the table, but we didn't start exporting because there were incentives being offered. And we didn't get into the electric business. As I said, we got into this business because the consumer will want this business to exist and not because the government wants this business to exist.
And you can catch more from that exclusive interview with Rajiv Bajaj at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. Staying with auto, electric scooter maker Ather Energy has picked Nomura, JP Morgan and HSBC to help arrange its IPO. According to reports, the startup has also selected local banks like JM Financial and Axis Bank for the first share sale. The IPO could take place in the second half of the year, depending on market conditions. Ather has been selecting banks for a listing that could value the firm at about $2 billion. That's as per Bloomberg. The company, which is backed by the likes of Flipkart's co-founders and Tiger Global, raised $128 million in a Series E round in 2022. So Ola in the pipeline, and next up, perhaps Ather. Tata Motors' decision to demerge its automobile business has found favour with top brokerages. Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan cheered the move, adding that it may lead to better value discovery. UBS maintains that the demerger simplifies the structure but says that it doesn't see any material value unlocking as of now. The Tata Motors stock did hit a record high in trade today. Now, multiple brokerages have reacted to CNBC-TV18's news break on the insurance regulator considering changes to the surrender value for life insurance companies. Morgan Stanley says the final surrender value norms are non-disruptive. Meanwhile, CLSA believes that the norms are a diluted down version of the draft regulations. However, both brokerages agree that HDFC Life will benefit the most from the move. While the Reserve Bank has barred JM Financial from financing against shares and debentures with immediate effect, this will include sanctioning and disbursing loans against IPO shares. The RBI says it's found serious concerns over governance. Ritu joins us now with the details. The latest action from the RBI, Ritu, this time it's JM Financial. Take us through what the RBI order says and its implications.
Well, yes, there are similar business restrictions that have now been imposed on JM Financial Products, which is a systemically important non-deposit-taking NBFC. And here, RBI has directed them to cease and desist with immediate effect from doing any form of financing against shares and debentures, including the sanction and dispersal of loans against IPO of shares as well as against subscription to debentures. But the company can continue to service the existing loan accounts through the usual collection and recovery processes, as it allowed in the case of IFL Finance as well. Now, RBI said it carried out a limited review of the books of the company on the basis of information which was shared by SEBI, and it found some serious deficiencies in respect of loans that were sanctioned by the company for IPO financing and for NCD subscriptions. It found that the NBFC repeatedly helped a group of customers to bid for various IPOs and NCD offerings using loaned funds. The credit underwriting was perfunctory and the financing was done against very meager margins. The application thereafter for subscription, the demat accounts, the bank accounts, all of this was operated by the company using a power of attorney and a master agreement which was obtained from these customers without their involvement whatsoever in the subsequent operations. So in a sense, you had JM Financial Products effectively acting as both the lender and the borrower in violation, of course, of norms. The company also acted as the arranger of bank account opening as well as the operator of these bank accounts that it opened using the same power of attorney. So besides these, importantly, RBI also points out to serious concerns on governance issues in the entire company, which it found detrimental to the interest of customers, and RBI is examining any regulatory violations on this aspect separately as well. Now, as in the case of IIFL Finance, RBI again said it is going to review the restrictions after a special audit is conducted, and RBI is satisfied that the deficiencies have been rectified.
Ritu, many thanks for joining us. And Ritu was talking about IIFL Finance as well. The stock hitting the 20% lower circuit after the RBI ordered it to stop sanctioning and dispersing fresh gold loans. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, IIFL founder Nirmal Jain said the move relates to non-compliance on cash dispersals and some discrepancies on gold valuation. He hopes, though, to resolve both the issues. Listen in.
This team is more conservative, and their assessment many times can be lesser in terms of qualities and what branches and the sales-oriented people do. We have taken corrective action to make sure that the differences are minimal in terms of the assessment of gold that branches have done and that the audit team does. But in any case, we are putting in stronger systems in place to make sure that these deviations are minimal.
Well, that's Nirmal Jain of IIFL. Now, the National Payments Corporation of India met UPI app providers with lesser market share today. Sources tell us that large banks and select NBFCs also attended that meeting to discuss steps to boost the presence of smaller players. Large players like Paytm, Google Pay and PhonePe were not part of this meeting. Speaking of Paytm, Paytm's Vijay Sharma spoke at a fintech conference in Tokyo in what was his first public appearance since the RBI imposed severe restrictions on Paytm Payment Bank. Sharma expressed confidence in his company overcoming the recent regulatory setbacks. He said, and I quote, "The biggest thing that I've learned is that many times your teammate and advisor may not be getting it correct. It is important for you yourself to be taking care of it," end of quote. Shares of Paytm down about 45% since the RBI cracked down on the Paytm Payment Bank. Paytm is currently working to add more banks as partners. Sharma said, and I quote again, "Asia has an opportunity to build a financial system for the next generation. Make Paytm an Asia leader. In my lifetime, I would like to do that," end of quote. Tech giant Google has agreed to reinstate apps that were removed for billing fee violations. This comes after Union IT and Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav held meetings with both Google and the impacted startups. In a statement, Google says it is, and I quote, "temporarily reinstating the apps while asserting its right to implement and enforce its business model in India." The dispute centers around Google's revised service fee structure. Earlier, Google used to charge app developers anywhere between 15 to 30% for every in-app purchase made by customers. After a rap from India's Competition Commission, Google revised this fee to somewhere in the region of 11 to 26%. The case is now in the Supreme Court, and Google did remove some of the apps from the Play Store after the Apex Court refused to provide interim relief to startups. Here's Minister Ashwini Vaishnav on the reinstatement and the road ahead.
Google and startup community both have met with us. We have had very constructive discussions, and finally Google has agreed to list all the apps as on the way the status which was there on Friday morning. That status will be restored. Google has been supporting our technology development journey, and we believe that in the coming months both startup community as well as Google would be able to come to a long-term resolution.
That's the IT and Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. Now, India's food regulatory body FSSAI has confirmed that McDonald's India uses real cheese. That's according to an exchange filing by Westlife Food World, the largest McDonald's franchisee in India. The company also said it received test results from accredited labs confirming the use of 100% real cheese across its products. The move comes after the Maharashtra food regulator suspended the license of one McDonald's outlet in Ahmednagar for allegedly using cheese substitutes. Take a look.
McDonald's serves nothing but 100% real cheese. Our stand has been actually verified by FSSAI by virtue of getting a verification from that body, which is a central body under the law and jurisdiction. We believe we are in absolute clear. Now, as far as FDA is concerned, they're an implementation body. We operate with all the state FDAs, Maharashtra FDA, including Maharashtra FDA. So we don't see that as a big problem.
That's the view there from McDonald's. Relief coming in for the company. Pop star Rihanna's beauty brand Fenty making its debut in India. Products will be available for purchase on Nykaa from the 7th of March. In a press release, Rihanna said she was excited about the launch in India. She was recently in Jamnagar for the pre-wedding celebrations of Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant, where she performed. Now, the State Bank of India has asked the Supreme Court for time till the 30th of June to reveal details of those who donated electoral bonds to political parties. The Association for Democratic Reforms, one of the petitioners in the case, is set to oppose State Bank of India's plea in the Supreme Court. Remember, just last month, the Supreme Court had ruled that the electoral bond scheme was unconstitutional. It had struck it down. The court had given SBI time till the 6th of March to disclose details to the Election Commission. Now, Ashmit joins us to take us through what SBI says in its plea when it seeks an extension just 2 days ahead of that 21-day deadline that was set by the Supreme Court. Ashmit raises several questions about the manner in which this is being done.
In the electoral bonds case, the Supreme Court judgment upheld the voters' right to know donor details. But there's a new twist. The SBI is asking for an extension till June 30th to furnish the details, which would mean that effectively voters will not have access to donor details till after the Lok Sabha elections. SBI's plea left many on social media saying, "Look, I told you so." So naturally, we take a look at the questions facing the SBI. Number one, the Supreme Court judgment was pronounced on February 15th. The Supreme Court had directed the SBI to furnish electoral bond details to the Election Commission by March 6th. The bank had 3 weeks or 21 days to furnish this information. The SBI has cited logistical issues in reconciling and sharing this data with the Election Commission. The question being asked is, why did the SBI wait till the 19th day of the 21-day Supreme Court deadline to express this concern? Another question, does it leave no room for the Supreme Court to now maneuver? Number two, paragraph 13 of the SBI application claims that KYC details are stored physically. The SBI claims that this was done to ensure that data cannot be gathered easily to ensure anonymity. Question being asked is, was anonymity not possible with digital records? Digital KYC records are maintained securely for 48 crore customers, but why no digital KYC records for 22,000 bonds? Number three, paragraph 10 of the SBI plea says that donor details are kept in a sealed cover and are transferred to the main branch in Mumbai. Paragraph 11 submits that even at the time when political parties are encashing these bonds, the original bond and the pay-in slip are again kept in a sealed cover, which again is sent back to the main branch in Mumbai. If all the documents are in Mumbai, why does SBI need more than 4 months for reconciling this donor information and sharing it with the Election Commission? And finally, number four, based on activist Commodore Lokesh Batra's RTI application, a 2018 Finance Ministry file noting had come to light. This file noting revealed that SBI had asked for labeling each electoral bond with a unique serial number to create an audit trail. As per this file noting, the SBI had claimed that in case of information being sought by law enforcement agencies, such serial numbers will allow for sourcing of data about where the bond was issued, to whom it was issued, and which account it was encashed in. Importantly, the Finance Ministry had allowed for such a unique serial number. The obvious question is, if electoral bonds are traceable with the serial number, why the ask by SBI for time till June 30th? The Supreme Court had prescribed a deadline for the SBI. It runs out tomorrow, March 6th, and that gives rise to perhaps the most important question. After upholding the voters' right to know, will the Supreme Court allow the extension or stay firm on disclosure before the upcoming Lok Sabha elections.
Well, we'll have to wait to see how the Supreme Court responds to SBI's plea seeking 4 more months now to present the data in the electoral bond matter. Ashmit Penny, thanks for joining us. Up next on India Business Hour, Praveen Khandelwal, the leader of the Confederation of All India Traders, now the BJP's candidate for the upcoming Lok Sabha elections from Delhi's Chandni Chowk. We speak with him in just a bit. You can catch all of CNBC-TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Well, here's all the international news tonight. A 31-year-old Indian national working in Israel has been killed after a missile attack. The Israeli government blaming Lebanon-backed Hezbollah for the strikes. The attack also injured 2 other Indians. The Indian government has issued an advisory urging Indian nationals working around Israel border to relocate to safer areas. And speaking of the Israel-Hamas war, Israel continues to pound Gaza even as the ceasefire talks continue. Reports suggest that Israeli forces fired on a crowd of Palestinians that were awaiting aid distribution in Gaza City. This is the second such attack since Monday. According to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, more than 30,500 Palestinians have been killed so far. 4 former Twitter executives have sued Elon Musk for over $128 million in unpaid severance. The lawsuit filed in San Francisco also includes former CEO Parag Agrawal. The suit has alleged that the former executives were fired by Musk without cause. They've also claimed that Musk falsely accused them of misconduct and he owed them 1 year's salary and stock options. This comes after Musk acquired Twitter, now X, in October of 2022 for $44 billion. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos pips Elon Musk to become the world's richest man. He's back on the top of the Bloomberg's billionaire index for the first time in over 2 years. As per Bloomberg, Bezos' net worth a whopping $200 billion yesterday, while Musk stood at $198 billion and the LVMH chief Bernard Arnault was at $197 billion. Musk, Bezos and Arnault have rotated places in the last few years in this ranking. This comes after Bezos sold over $8.5 billion worth of Amazon stock in recent weeks. Automaker Tesla has halted production at its German plant after a suspected arson attack. An electricity pylon close to the plant caught fire. This caused power outages in the factory and in towns nearby. Meanwhile, far-left militant group called the Volcano Group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that Trump can remain on the Republican primary ballot in Colorado. The apex court ruled that states cannot invoke a post-Civil War constitutional provision to keep presidential candidates from appearing on ballots. The ruling also puts an end to similar challenges in other states like Maine and Illinois. Back home, the BJP has decided to bench most of its sitting MPs from Delhi in the upcoming Lok Sabha polls, despite registering a clean sweep last time. The party has fielded Praveen Khandelwal of the Confederation of All India Traders in Chandni Chowk. Now, this is a seat that former Health Minister Harshvardhan won by a margin of over 228,000 votes in 2019. My colleague Shivani Bazar spoke with Khandelwal to get a sense of the key election issues this time around.
The Bharatiya Janata Party has released the first list of candidates for the Lok Sabha elections 2024. In the national capital, BJP has announced the names of candidates for 5 out of 7 seats. Praveen Khandelwal has been given a ticket from Chandni Chowk seat. Widely known as the General Secretary of the Confederation of All India Traders, Khandelwal is a second-generation BJP leader. Chandni Chowk is the hub of traders in the national capital, and hence his priorities include ease of doing business, ease of taxation and relaxed licensing norms for businesses.
2-3 ऐसे क्या इश्यूज हैं जो आपके लोकसभा में इलेक्ट होने से आप सबसे पहले प्रायोरिटी पे रखें?
देखिए, कर प्रणाली का सरलीकरण और कैसे हो उस पर चर्चा होगी। लगातार कर प्रणाली का सरलीकरण हुआ है और मोदी जी के कार्यकाल में जीएसटी में लगभग 1400 से अधिक संशोधन हुए हैं। और संशोधन जब होता है जब आपको किसी को कोई राहत देनी हो। जिस प्रकार से प्रधानमंत्री जी ने वन नेशन वन टैक्स की बात कही है और उन्होंने कहा ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस, तो ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में एक सुझाव ये भी हो सकता है कि वन लाइसेंस भी किया जाए।
क्या आप थोड़ी रोशनी डाल सकते हैं ये वन लाइसेंस से कैसे बिजनेसेस को, छोटे बिजनेसेस को पर्टिकुलरली आपकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में फायदा मिलेगा?
वर्तमान में जो अनेक प्रकार के लाइसेंस, आज यदि कोई एक दुकान खोले तो उसको अनेक सरकारों से लाइसेंस लेना पड़ता है। उसको केंद्र सरकार के विभाग से लेना पड़ता है, राज्य सरकार के विभाग से लेना पड़ता है, फिर उसको कॉरपोरेशन से लाइसेंस लेना पड़ता है। तो आधार बेस्ड एक लाइसेंस अगर हो तो यदि मुझे मान लीजिए दवा का काम करना है तो मेरा वो लाइसेंस काम करे, मुझे हार्डवेयर का काम करना है तो मेरा लाइसेंस काम करे, मुझे फूड का काम करना है तो वो लाइसेंस काम करे। तो एक लाइसेंस की व्यवस्था यदि हो जाएगी तो ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस देश भर के व्यापारियों के लिए वो बहुत कामयाब होगा।
Clearly, traders and youth remain Khandelwal's primary focus in the upcoming Lok Sabha election. In New Delhi, this is Shivani Bajaj.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. The news continues right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned.